It is June 18th, 2025. It's Talk of Giants, brought to you by SeatGeek, and we're doing a solo mailbag pod today. I asked multiple different platforms, made a YouTube community post, Instagram, and Twitter. Got some really good questions. Thanks to everybody left question. Mailbag pods are always my favorite because it gets me thinking about stuff that I normally wouldn't be thinking about. So thankful for you. Thankful to see some familiar names pop up. OTAs are over. They ended last week. We're in the middle of veteran minicamp. They started on June 17th yesterday. The media was there for that. They're going to end tomorrow on Thursday, June 17th to the 19th. And then we're on to training camp. The Giants are taking a little mini vacation. Everybody will go back home, take their mini vacations. And ironically enough, it is this week that I'm taking my final vacation. I'm in the DR. I'm in Punta Cana. It was a trip that I was supposed to take last year. When my grandmother passed, we had to push it to this year. So I'm enjoying myself recording this a little bit early. I'm going to try and get a beat reporter on next week to recap OTAs and minicamp, give a training camp preview. I would like to do even a 53-man roster prediction. We normally do a camp battles episode. I don't think that's an exclusive idea, a positions battle episode. So could even do that. Could do it solo. Could get some guests on. I don't know, man. We're figuring out. We're having a good time, and we're getting excited for Giants football, and thanks for sticking with me. So we're on to the mailbag, and I had an idea to transition us from the intro of the pod to the mailbag. It could be something different. It's a different funny drop, things that I find funny. So this one will be Brian Burns and a drop and a soundbite that he had last year. Take it away, Brian Burns.
Sometimes I enjoy my farts.
All right, thank you to Brian Burns, who likes to enjoy the smell of his own farts. First question is coming from Ryan at Giants_. Ryan, who would you rather have a breakout season out of Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt, the two darlings of the spring? And whose breakout is more likely? Now, I would much rather have Evan Neal, considering the need for offensive line both right now and especially long-term in the future. If somehow Evan Neal turns into the guard of the future and is a kick-ass run blocker and a good enough pass blocker, that really improves the line, and within the next 1 to 2 years, you're looking for one starting guard instead of two. The wide receiver room has more depth right now, and also Hyatt plays a position that I think is much more easily replaceable than guard or offensive line in general. Hyatt is also a very replaceable player as like the deep guy. Now, whose breakout is more likely? I think it comes down to obviously injuries. If there's an injury to John Runyon or Greg Van Roten, it opens the door for Evan Neal. If an injury to either Malik Neighbors or Darius Slayton happens, then it opens the door for Hyatt. But I'm still going to go with Neal here because I actually somewhat believe in Evan Neal's ability as a run blocker more than I believe in Hyatt's ability to be a complete wide receiver. Now, the question has to be asked with Jalen Hyatt. What does a breakout season look like for him? If he doubles the production from what he did from his rookie season, that would be 46 catches, 740 yards. His yards per reception at 16 in 2023 was 10th out of all receivers with at least 20 catches, so it may not be that high. So let's say 46 catches with 675 yards. Either of those stat lines would be like a normal Darius Slayton season. Would that be considered a breakout? For Hyatt, I think so. And I just think with Darius Slayton here and everyone else in the wide receiver room, if they're healthy, I just think that'll be very hard to achieve. Like Jalen Hyatt aiming to have like a Darius Slayton type of stat line season with Darius Slayton here. Do I think Hyatt can carve out a role for himself in a Russell Wilson-led offense? 100%. Reminder, Russ was number 1 in big-time throw rate, number 1 in adjusted completion percentage, number 2 in QB rating, and number 2 in EPA per dropback on throws of 20-plus yards. So Russ is a good deep ball thrower, the moon ball. So Hyatt's trump card of being a deep threat on the sideline is going to have an opportunity to be on display. And if there's one thing the spring has shown, despite my frustrations with Hyatt on how he's dealt and how he dealt with adversity last summer, the organizational approach with him is kill him with kindness. And I think that's clear. There's nothing wrong with that. Every person responds to different styles of leadership and criticism, even though these same exact headlines of Hyatt's bigger and stronger, he's gained muscle, he looks good early on, he's working hard. Even though those same headlines happened last year, it's clear he needs the positive reinforcement, I think, to be motivated to work. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people are in a similar boat in how they operate as workers or employees, right? So overall, I'm rooting for both to have their breakouts, always root for the guys in blue. I think it's doubtful we see it from either, but if it's going to happen, it's more likely it happens for Evan Neal at guard, because based on what their skill sets already are, and for the long-term opportunities present at the position, I am going to go with Evan Neal. Like, Evan Neal as a run blocker last year, you know, I'm emotionally, I'm invested in neither, and I've said that on a previous show. Emotionally, I'm not invested in Jalen Hyatt or Evan Neal. Do I hope they pick things up? Hell yeah. But I simply think Evan Neal's talent, his size, like Jalen Hyatt does not have the NFL size. He has the NFL speed. Jalen Hyatt does not have the NFL size and strength right now. That was the big question for him. Evan Neal always had that. So if Evan Neal can start leaning on people at guard, and if Evan Neal can be an okay enough pass blocker where he's not a total detriment, then that could be an advantage for the team, especially because the Giants need interior offensive line right now, and especially long-term as well, kind of like I said. So Evan Neal for both, certainly both cases. All right, on to the next. All right, next question is coming from John G. Money 7626 on YouTube. Who reaches 5 sacks first? Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, or Dex? Also, who is the first to reach to 10? And then my guy Tucker Cherry asks, good to see you in Charlotte, on Instagram, who has more sacks this season? Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, or Brian Burns? So one is kind of who gets the 5 sacks first with the top 4 pass rushers, and then Tucker Cherry is just asking about the edge rushers. Now, who reaches 5 sacks first kind of depends on who can have a big game first. An underrated part of this pass rush is, like, holy shit, there are 4 guys on this team that it wouldn't surprise anybody if they had a 3-sack game. Week 1, there may be an opportunity for an edge rusher to face a rookie Josh Connerly if he beats out Brandon Coleman at right tackle. Week 2, the entire Dallas offensive line has question marks, but especially the interior is really young, including a rookie Tyler Booker at guard and second-year Cooper Beebe at center. So that could be like a Dexter Lawrence game. He could shine that game against the Cowboys. So my money is on Dex to lead the team in sacks, just like it was last year. The dude just dominates. The dude takes over. If he's the first one to 5 or 10, I'm not sure, but if he stays healthy, he has a healthy total of over 10 sacks. In terms of who has more sacks on the season, Tucker Cherry's question, Carter, Tibbs, or Burns, I think I'm going to go with Burns, even though I'm very excited for all 3. I did some stat digging, and last year, Brian Burns had the 5th most pressures under 3 seconds, and out of all edge rushers with 300 pass snaps, Burns had the fastest average time to pressure in the NFL. QBs, when facing the Giants last year, had the 2nd fastest time to throw in the NFL, 2.68 seconds. And with the improvements of the pass rush, I don't anticipate that changing. Quarterbacks are going to get rid of the ball fast. If you hold on to the ball against this defense, your QB is going to get hit. So you got to hit the quarterback faster than he throws it, and I was really surprised at how great Burns was at those quick wins. Kayvon had an underrated year too when it came to pressure. His injury really did set him back. I would have loved to see what his final line was if he played more. His sack rate was almost identical to Brian Burns, but I do think out of the rotation of Burns, Carter, and Tibbs, Kayvon's going to be the one kind of left out. Now, the last 2 years, he played 87% of the snaps and 75% of the snaps in the games he was active, like the snaps that he was eligible for. And I think that will definitely be less this year. It'll probably be less for Burns, too. So the opportunity to sack the quarterback won't be there like he had in the past. Why not Abdul Carter? Now, he's the wild card right now. I have this 7 to 9 sack expectation for Abdul Carter. Micah Parsons got 13 sacks in his rookie year, but he was on the field for 900 snaps. He split a fair amount of time at off-ball linebacker, and since Parsons he settled since more or less at edge rusher. So how many snaps does Carter get? The more he plays at off-ball linebacker, the more he's on the field, but will those pass rush snaps be mixing in any coverage? I'm choosing Brian Burns to lead the edge rushers in sacks because I overall think Burns is going to be the one to be put in a position to get them. I think he's going to get the most reps, and I think he's going to get the most opportunities, and he's also paid to be that dude as well. Like, my goal for Abdul Carter is to be a nut this year. Go and be a versatile Swiss Army nut. Figure out and carve out what your role is going to be in the NFL. Figure out and carve out what your role is going to be as an edge rusher. This is only his second full-time year as an edge rusher in his football life. The rest of the years at Penn State and high school, he spent at like off-ball linebacker and other spots. So Abdul Carter has to kind of carve out his NFL role and what that looks like and continue to work on his craft as an edge rusher and be part of a rotation, whereas Brian Burns is being paid like a top edge rusher to be on the field a lot. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau, there's nothing wrong with being the third guy here and getting reps when you need them. I think Kayvon's the numbers and maybe even the sack total is gonna that may impact him most because he's not gonna get the opportunities. But if there's a game where, like week 1 against the Commanders, it's Brian Burns against Laramie Tunsil, and it's Kayvon Thibodeau against Josh Connerly in his first NFL game, but Abdul Carter is lining up a lot on the inside to be a QB spy against Jaden Daniels. I could see, we know that Kayvon Thibodeau can have these 2-3 sack games. So in terms of the guys, the first to get to 5, the first to get to 10, all it takes is one good game to really kind of make a season. If you have a 2-sack game, if you have a 3-sack game, if you even have 2 2-sack games, that makes your season total look so much better when you can dominate one game, and then if you're kind of inconsistent throughout the rest, kind of just a couple outlier games could kind of make your final season stat line look that much better. Burns is going to get the opportunities. Carter's going to be a Swiss Army knife and figure out his role, and then Thibodeau may kind of not get the same opportunities as he's gotten in past years. So that's how I would kind of break it down, and I do think Dex is going to lead the team in sacks. All right, before we get back to the show, we got to talk about Mando because today's episode is sponsored by Mando. You ever step outside and feel like you're instantly drenched in sweat? I went to New York City this week to pick up a passport for a family member since I'm going on vacation next week. Got out of the subway station and it was sunny in New York City and I felt the humidity. I felt that heat. And if you're struggling with that, just like I always do, I have great news. Mando has just launched something that takes sweat control to the next level. Introducing the Mando Deodorant Plus Sweat Control Solid Stick. I'm holding the Smooth Solid Bourbon Leather stick right now, and I'll tell you what, if you open it up, bourbon leather, if you're wondering, what does bourbon leather smell like? It smells exactly like this. Can't describe it. You have to do it for yourself. It's how bourbon leather would smell. And there's a starter pack just for you if you're interested. Mando starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with this solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Love things that are free. And as a special offer for you, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code Talkin' Giants at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. That's code Talkin' Giants at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. Now back to the mailbag. All right, on to the next question. We're going to Townsend L16 on YouTube. Don't know if that was intentional with the L16, but it's one of my favorite places in the entire world, MetLife Stadium. See you there in September. Who among the UDFAs do you see anyone having Bryce Ford Wheaton or Andre Miller like rise in training camp? So we're talking some UDFAs. I haven't talked about UDFAs at all yet, so I don't think any of them or does any of them scream at you that they're going to make the team? No, not necessarily. And I think all of them have a tough road. I think with so many members of the roster being Joe Shane additions now, like I said, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough path for any of these guys to make the team, but that doesn't mean that they can't have a good camp or preseason. Daquan Felton is the name that stands out the most. He caught a lot of drags and button hooks, 13% drop rate, but he can flash good hands with spectacular catches. He has that elite size, 6'4", 213 pounds, so Felton is the yearly big size, potential, big play wide receiver that needs to develop more as a route runner UDFA. I feel like one of these guys come every single year. Felton doesn't do a ton to excite me, but if he can contribute to special teams, maybe he can follow that Bryce Ford Wheaton type of path of being long and contributing that way. I mean, Bryce Ford Wheaton basically won the Giants football game last year with that blocked field goal against the Seahawks. Now, Felton already flashed spectacular catchability with the one-handed catch during a media session of OTAs. So we'll see about Felton, but they signed so many wide receivers as UDFAs. Plus, it's already a crowded room to begin with. So I don't think Belton's going to make the team, but I think he's the Felton's going to make the team. Excuse me, but he is the main headline. Then there's Bo Collins out of Notre Dame. He's a wide receiver. He plays with a bit of an attitude and a spunk, and I like it. Plays up to his size when he needs to at 6'3", 201 pounds. He shows adequate quickness in the short and intermediate part of the field. He changes a tempo running in those parts of the field as well, which I feel is really important and a nuanced trait and something that I really picked up on this year. And I appreciated wide receivers that did that. He has some yak potential as well. A physical player, has a career drop rate at 13%, so similar to Felton, that's really high. And despite playing on a better offense than Felton, his yards per route and run numbers are similar, which disappointed me since I like Bo Collins more. He looks more explosive, and he's overall just more exciting. There's Juice Wells, wide receiver from Ole Miss, teammate of Jackson Dart. It's a guy that plays hard with some nice strength, caught some nice deep balls from Jackson Dart, but really inconsistent. Jordan Bly is a 5'10", 175-pound wide receiver from Gardner-Webb, has elite speed. There really isn't a backup slot on this team to Wan'Dale Robinson, so if Jordan Bly can hit the ground running, there's some potential for him to get some good high-leverage reps as a UDFA and during training camp. Bly was the first receiver on Brugler's best of the rest list in his Beast Draft Guide. Now, the guy that I'm most intrigued by is Dalen Cambray from the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. He was a special teams ace in 2024. Cambray was just one of 5 players in the nation to play over 300 special teams snaps and was tied for second in the nation with 11 special teams tackles. He posted a 4.43 in the 40-yard dash with really good agility numbers at his pro day as well. You've seen number 5 make flash plays down the field with backups all spring. And if you're wondering, like, oh, who's this guy making these plays down the field with these backups? That's Dalen Cambray, man. And he didn't get a lot of reps at wide receiver in college. And I was reading some reports that, like, the Louisiana intentionally didn't give him reps at wide receiver because they wanted to save him for special teams. So if Cambray can make some splash plays as a wide receiver, plus he could be like this special teams ace, I think out of all the receivers they signed as UDFAs, and even out of all the UDFAs, I think Dalen Cambray has the best opportunity to maybe even make the team. There's O'Donnell Fortune, cornerback out of South Carolina. It's a guy that I like too. Just there's a lot of bodies in that cornerback room. He plays with good instincts, his ball skills. He has 31.5-inch arms. Lacks physicality, but he kind of stays in phase with receivers. He had the 19th lowest passer rating allowed among draft-eligible players this last year, and that's like really good for a UDFA. Had a lot of snaps too. One of 9 draft-eligible players to not be penalized a single time this past year. How many times do you read in scouting reports and see that guys are too grabby? His interceptions where he baits quarterbacks to make a bad throw, does that routinely. Interceptions against Alabama and Dominion were really nice this year, where he did exactly that. Baited the quarterback to think that a receiver was open, but he bounced and filled that void as the ball was arriving. Has really good instincts on screens and swing passes as well to get where he needs to be to make a play. I wonder if there is a transition to safety, since there are some like athleticism and long speed questions, but he's also like a good corner too. I like Fortune. There's a lot of names in front of him. I'm going to be watching out for him in camp and preseason. So those are the guys that stick out. Obviously, all the wide receivers. Fortune, cornerback from South Carolina. That's a guy that I think he's just one of the best UDFAs that they have. And obviously, Dalen Cambray, I think, does have the best chance if there's a special teams like number 6. Do they carry 7 wide receivers? Probably not. It's unlikely, but guys that are certainly have the potential to flash during training camp. All right, next, we got some stat stuff. How about Giants Daily Trivia at trivia_NYG? Wes does a great job running this page, especially as we're counting down to the regular season. So Giants Daily Trivia at trivia_NYG. Go give him a follow. How about that? Let's go down a wormhole. Could you provide some stats into what the Giants offense would need to do to be a top 5 Giants offense since 2015 with passing, rushing, total yards, and scoring? I'll let you know what I did first wrong. I read this as like top 5 offense since 2015, and I'm like, all right, well, then I'm pulling, Drew Brees numbers in 2015 where we're throwing for over 5,000 yards, and then even Joe Burrow last year. And then I'm like, okay, we'll read this again. Like, this is top 5 Giants offense since 2015, which is a really good question. We're going to talk about that. But my guy, Mr. Brownstone, asks, the last few years we've seen losses due to bad goal line play, no kicker, bad calls, drops, bad QB play, etc. Does the addition of Russ and an improved QB room give you any optimism that our offense can score and win games despite a tough schedule? Lions don't like water. Love you, dog. Love you too, Mr. Brownstone. Let's attack this first before we go back to Wes's question. I'll go to Mr. Brownstone first. The short answer is yes. Like, they can do enough to win and score. Like, this offense can. Thing that I don't like is offensively, like, the main thing that we're banking on is Andrew Thomas being healthy and hoping that happens. I just don't love this. I don't love this offensive line, especially at the interior, but Thomas increases the floor of this unit so much. Now, on the flip side, there are more guarantees on offense this year than in years prior. Like I said, we're hoping that Andrew Thomas stays healthy. I feel like we don't need to hope on a guy like Malik Neighbors. Like, he's a stud, and we know it. I feel like we don't need to hope on Russell Wilson being average and getting average QB play. I think we know what we're getting out of him. The running back room, I think we know what we're going to get out of Tyrone Tracy. Cam Scatterbo, I'm excited about. I think that's a guy that's a role that I think Giants fans are expecting that he takes and he attacks and he tackles. But maybe nationally people will not see that coming. Devin Singletary is there too, and I hope that they're gonna lose money if they wind up cutting him, but I like having him. Is he a little expensive? Yeah, but I don't really care. It's good depth and it's a good problem. Hopefully they all fumble less. Hopefully all three of them fumble less than what they did last year. Kind of costed us multiple games at multiple times. So I feel like we know what we're getting out of that running back room, and I'm excited about that. Darius Slayton is the definition of somebody that we know what we're getting out of, for better or worse. And I like to think for better. The drops have not been a chronic issue for him since, 2020, 2021, 2022. So unlike previous years where we're hoping to see productive and positive things out of players that haven't shown it yet, a la like we're hoping that Kenny Golladay can get back to what he was before he was hurting. Kadarius Toney and Evan Ingram, we're waiting for the Evan Ingram breakout year. Like, all these things that guys just haven't shown, we're hoping that we get out of him. That's not the case with this Giants offense. This year does feel different offensively in that regard. So yes, Mr. Brownstone, I think despite the schedule, I do have optimism that this offense can score and win games. They also will hopefully have a defense that is more dominant than previous years too. Takeaways will help that too, if they can do that. I mean, the Giants defense in 2016, we saw, what a dominant defense can do. It can increase the floor of a really bad offense, and this Giants offense, I don't think is going to be bad as 2016. They were 29th in scoring and points per drive in 2016, and they were first in points per drive on defense. So I don't think the defense is going to be that good, but obviously the offenses, I really don't think is going to be 29th, regardless of what quarterback is in there. I think they crossed their T's and they dotted their I's with that. The main thing that we're hoping for, once again, is Andrew Thomas staying healthy and increasing the floor of that offensive line. That's the main thing that we're hoping on, and we're holding on for hope. Hopefully that happens, and we know that he's going to be good. We know that he's going to be a stud. Now, with Wes's question, and I'll read it again, could you provide some stats into what the Giants offense would need to do to be a top 5 Giants offense since 2015 with passing, rushing, total yards, and scoring? I didn't do total yards, but I did make a graph. And I'm actually going to share my screen right now. I did since 2015. You have you see 2015 through 2024 right here. Seasons, games. I did pass yards per game. I did rushing yards per game and points per game. So if you're on YouTube, this is a lot easier to see if you're on YouTube. If you're on the podcast app, I'm going to try to explain it the best way that I can. And what we can do with this table is we can sort by descending. Descending or ascending. I always get those things confused. But basically, the best year that the Giants had passing-wise was 2018 with 275.3 yards per game. And the worst that they had was 2023 with 197.1. So 2018, 2015, 2019, 2017, and 2016, ironically enough, then they were not very good in 2016. That is the 5th best passing yards per game per season at 251.7. So Wes is asking, can the 2024 Giants offense have a top 5 season in each of these categories? Yards per game 2016 is 5th, 251.7. Can this Giants passing offense be better than what they did in 2016? I can say yes. And even if you look at 6th, it's 227. That's what they did in 2024. I 100% think that they're going to be better than what they did in 2024. So I think it will be somewhere like that. That 2016 to 2019 was so tight at 251, 252, and 254. That 2019 yards per game at 254 was the 3rd best. So I do think they can be somewhere in the 250s. And I think that's a very fair expectation. So yes, yards per game, passing wise, I think they can be top 5. They should be. Now let's do rushing yards per game. It is descending, by the way. That's where it shows you the best first. How do you like that? I know phrases. 2022 was the best since 2015 at 148.2 rushing yards per game. And then 2016 was last at 88.3 yards per game. If we go down to 5th, it's 2024, ironically enough, at 104.9 rush yards per game. Do I think the Giants' rushing offense can be better than what they did on a per-game basis than what they were in 2024? I also think, yes, Cam Scatterbo, Tyrone Tracy for a full second year. If you're in football games and we're not, maybe we're leading football games at the end and then we're running the ball. If we're not constantly behind in football games, then we're running the ball a little bit more. And if the game is in a little bit more, if the game script is a little bit more neutral in a game neutral situation as opposed to being down by 10 points or 2 touchdowns in the second half of the fourth quarter, I trust and I believe that the Giants' rushing offense can be a top 5 unit since 2015. All they would have to do is be better on a per game basis than what they were last year. And even 2019, it was 105.3. That was 4th. I think they could be in that range. I don't know if they're going to be much better than getting close to 110 and what they were in 2023 and 2020. And I don't think they're getting anywhere near what they were in 2022, especially because that was, DJ's legs really came out in 2022. So you had to account for his legs too, along with Barkley having a good year. So yes, I think the Giants offense in 2025 can be top 5 in that category too. Points per game. 2015 was the best year at 26.3, and 2021 was the worst at 15.2. The Giants have had as many seasons with 16 or less points per game since 2015, the last 10 years, as they've had years they've scored 20 points per game. It's kind of crazy. So where was 5th in regards to since 2015 points per game? It was 2016 at 19.4. Where they were last year is 16.1. So what it comes down to is, can the Giants score 20 points per game this year? I certainly hope so. I don't. That's a pretty big jump. That's a 1-score jump going from 16.1, what they were in 2024. That was 7th out of the last 10 years. I think they should. They should. Everything should be closer to average, and everything should be better. Do they get to 20? That's the biggest question. 2015 it was 26.3. 2018 it was 23.1. 2022 it was 21.5. What I would like is, and this is a foreign concept as for the Giants. What I would like is, even if there are games where the offense sucks, but a nice trade-off would be are games where the offense can explode. Okay, we're playing, give me a bit. Or, okay, the Saints. Give me the Saints. The Saints are not going to be a good team this year. They have a decent defense on paper, but I think without Dennis Allen, they're going to take a step back. So, the Saints score 35 points against the Saints. Their offense is going to be shit too, so they're going to give you the ball back a ton. Defense is hopefully going to force some turnovers and get some sacks and produce some negative plays in that regard against a really bad Saints team. So that should be a game where the offense, you should feel confident that the offense can score 25, 28, 30 points. Why not have an offensive game where they go off? But also, I wouldn't mind a game where, hey, if they just get stopped and they get their ass kicked, all right, whatever. Go get them next week. But I just haven't ever felt the potential. Doesn't matter who the coach is, who the quarterback is. I haven't felt the potential, basically since 2015, that the Giants offense could possibly go off for a game. 2018 may be an exception. They had the Panthers game. They had some Washington games. But I haven't felt like the offense could maybe just like go off for a game and then the next week be like back to normal. There's no such thing as that as Giants fans or even as a Giants offense. So that was a nice exercise. Hope you liked looking at this table. Probably was a little tough for people to listen to, but hope you're able to view it on YouTube. Wes, it's a great question. So I think there is a very good chance, and it would be a massive, massive disappointment if the Giants offense is not a top 5 offense since 2015, if you look at those year-by-year stats in terms of yards per game, passing-wise, rushing-wise, and points per game. I think the one where it should be the most obvious is passing yards per game. I think that's where it should be the most obvious, and they should easily accomplish it. Rush yards per game, depending on the game script, they should get it, and points per game is the one that I am the most unsure, but also why should be unsure? Fucking do it. All right, before we get back to the mailbag, I got to talk to you about DraftKings. Baseball fans, the season is heating up with every at-bat and every inning. The road to October is taking shape. There's no better time to get in on the action with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers who use code JMFootball, you can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll score $300 in bonus bets. Hello. From walk-off homers to no-hitters in the making, you won't want to miss a single pitch. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use the promo code JMFootball. Bet $5 on a wager and $300 in bonus bets. Get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code JMFootball only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. And on to the next question. Chris at Chris_bomb. He asked early thoughts on camp battles you're looking forward to. And then Ryan once again at Giants_Ryan. Who is one good player you would hate to see cut because of depth at the position? Let's get to some camp battles. Chris, I think you're talking about like position battles. So interior offensive line. Is there a battle? Maybe, maybe not. Like I would love for somebody to like overtake Greg Van Roten. Is that Josh Azudu? Is that Evan Neal? Is that Jake Kubas? Probably not any of those guys. I think Evan Neal would maybe be the most likely, especially if Evan Neal turns into a kick-ass run blocker. I could even see. I had this thought the other night. I was laying in bed. I swear to God, laying in bed. I almost tweeted this out at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I know we hate offensive line rotations. I know we hate them. But how interesting would it be if there's a rotation between Greg Van Roten, who's 35 years old, and Evan Neal, former first-round pick that you want to see on the field? I don't love O-line rotations, and I don't love the idea of breaking up that continuity, but how interesting would it be if Evan Neal really is that much of a separator as a run blocker, but he's bad as a pass blocker? It may be interesting to put Evan Neal in there on situations and against opponents, and maybe against certain drives where you want to run the ball a little bit or keep some things on unbalanced. Greg Van Roten could be your main guard, but can Evan Neal, like we've seen that Brian Daboll could do that O-line rotation before, did it with Nick Gates and John Feliciano back in 2022. I think he did it with Mark Glowinski a couple years ago too. So even though like O-line rotations in the past, we've been like pretty no about, and continuity, we believe in that, but that may be something that may be worth exploring if Evan Neal is that much better as a run blocker. Or Evan Neal just win the damn job. But Greg Van Roten, I think, is the guy right now, and I think he has that pretty safe. Interior defensive line, number 2/number 3, I think is very up in the air, and I don't know if there's going to be a clear winner, because I think all these guys have different strengths, and they're all going to be used. Roy Robertson Harris from Seattle, that's a guy that doesn't really do much for me. Run stuffer, but he's not even that great of a run stuffer. Darius Alexander's the rookie that we're excited about, 25 years old, from the University of Toledo. He should be the guy that does get a lot of these snaps, especially as if you want to go with 2 interior defensive linemen on third down and then 2 edge rushers. Like it's Dex, it's Darius Alexander, and then you have the 2 guys on the outside. Jeremiah Ledbetter from Jacksonville, that's the guy that shows a little juice that I am excited about. I think even though Roy Robertson Harris was paid a little bit more, but I think Ledbetter is a much better run stuffer. Obviously, there's Nacho here as well. Elijah Chapman is kind of like this pass rush extraordinaire. Like, you use him on stunts, and I actually think he's kind of good at that, and kind of, I think he's useful for that. Does he make the team? And then there's also Elijah Garcia, who was apparently in with second or first team during the spring, as there some veterans are dealing with some rest days and whatnot. Elijah Garcia is part of the defensive front that's wrecking a little havoc this spring during OTAs for the Giants defensive line. So there's interior defensive line 2 to 3. I don't know if Elijah Chapman's going to make the team just as like this stunter pass rusher. They were even using him. They were even lining him up as fullback a little bit, which that's what he did as a UDFA. It was like this. Nikita Whitlock kind of was getting like Nikita Whitlock comparisons as like this small interior defensive lineman / lineup as fullback. Didn't do it last year. May do it this year. I don't know. Hey, it's a way to make the team. Then there's interior linebacker number 3, Darius Mawasu, Deontay Johnson, and Chris Board. And this is where I get to Ryan's question of what's a player you would hate to see cut because of depth at the position. Now, Ryan said, what's a good player you would hate to see cut? I'm not going to come out and say that Deontay Johnson is this good player, but I would hate if Deontay Johnson is cut so it can make room for, like, Chris Board, who's like this special teams guy. Darius Mawasu was drafted as the special teams guy, but Mawasu played linebacker last year, and he awful. I don't know. He's Darius Mawasu there, in my opinion, and I don't think Mawasu is a bad like number 4 linebacker. Be the special teams guy that you were drafted to be, and if you're the number 4 guy in the depth chart, totally 100% fine. Good 6th-round draft pick from last year's class. But Deontay Johnson, I actually think has like potential as a good linebacker in the NFL, and maybe even like a Mike linebacker. Like, he doesn't have crazy athleticism. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, Micah McFadden, that's a guy that should be attacking. Like, Deontay Johnson should be the same thing. No, I think Deontay Johnson is a good calculated could be a good calculated Mike linebacker player, and he showed it last year during training camp. Got hurt, and then he played that Philly game. He kind of comes back after basically having a season-long injury, is cleared. And then has a decent, good game against the Eagles backups, the final game of the season. So that's a player that if he's like stay healthy, and there's no reason why like Deontay Johnson beat out Chris Board, beat out some of these other special teamers, UDFA like diamond in the rough. Let's keep this guy around as like good value. I'm rooting for Deontay Johnson very hard this summer. I hope he earns a spot on this team. I'm sure he could play special teams too. The underrated battle. Dan Duggan wrote about this in The Athletic. Quarterback number 2? Is there a cornerback 2 battle between Cordell Flott and Deontay Banks? I overall don't think so, but I also don't hate the approach of let's push Deontay Banks. Let's push Deontay Banks to reach some sort of ceiling. Like, this is a talented player. This is a player with really good traits, with really good athleticism, with a former first-round pick. Like, I don't hate the approach of let's push this guy. Cordell Flott had a decently good year as cornerback 2 last year. I think he is sliding perfectly into his role this year of being a backup outside corner. Don't mess around and put him in the slot. I mean, I guess he has that flexibility. I think he has that ability, but I would, at this point, he's played mostly on the outside. That's where he's had most of his success. Just freaking leave him there. It's a very valuable role to have as the backup outside corner. But I guess in a pinch, if Drew Phillips goes down, Cordell Flott could slide in the slot as well. So I don't think this is a full-on battle. Maybe it is, and I think this is something to really keep an eye on as training camp comes. I'm very ready to start to call Deontay Banks the best bad corner in the NFL. Because if you look at his next-gen stuff and his prior tracking data, he is really damn good. Like, one of the best corners in the NFL. Like, there's Sauce Gardner, there's DJ Reed, there's Reek Woolen. Like, these guys that are physical and like known as good corners. If you look at the rankings of average separation when targeted, Deontay Banks is up there with those guys, with some of the best corners in the league. It's just that he sucks at the catch point. And it's been the same talking point with him over and over and over again. Like, his average separation numbers are shockingly good. Like, one of the best in the league. But his coverage EPA and allowing deep catches, that's the shit that sucks. And that's not good. So, like, Deonte Banks, like, I am very ready to call him, like, one of the best bad corners in the NFL. Because the job of a corner is to cover wide receivers, and he seemingly does that well. But he allows catches, which is really frustrating. And Cordell Flott, like I said, a decently good year last year. If you remember specifically against the Bengals, covering Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase was very quiet against the Bengals. Now, they were also giving him a lot of safety help, which, hey, I'm not complaining at that. Like, the Giants have a cornerback one in Paulson Adebo this year that should be able to handle his own shit on one side, and then if you need to give your cornerback two help, I'm okay with that. Like, that was the Jerome Henderson, Patrick Graham philosophy for a couple years there, even in 2022, where we had Fabian Moreau, like these cornerback twos that aren't great, but they just handle their own shit and they get a lot of help. So if Cordell Flott winds up winning the job, I'll be really surprised, disappointed in Deonte Banks, but I also won't be panicking because the approach will be, well, we're going to give this guy help. But Deonte Banks should win this job. Like, and I still think, like, there is something there with Deonte Banks. Just needs to get better at making plays on the football. There's also tight end number 3. I hope Chris Manhertz is the tight end number 2. Like, that's a player that I hate to see cut. I think Chris Manhertz is tight end 2. Daniel Bellinger, Thomas Fidone, Greg Dulcich. Like, those are guys that are battling out for a spot. Excited to see them in camp. I don't have, like, strong opinions on anybody right now. Daniel Bellinger has that playtime escalator that the Giants never like to pay anybody. So if Thomas Fidone shows that he could be a better H-back, H-back in the backfield and somewhat of a decent blocker, maybe Fidone is that guy that slides in for Bellinger. Dulcich is like a wild card of, like, he has the athleticism of a former first rounder, but he's mostly a receiver. He's not really a blocker. And a returner, like, again, a good player. Now, this is probably the guy that fits best Ryan's question. Good player you would hate to see cut because of depth. It would be returner. Like, I think Amir Smith-Marset is a good returner. I think he's a good punt returner. I think he's a good kick returner. Unless another good returner, like, rises up and proves that he's better, like Amir Smith-Marset, if he's cut to make room for a wide receiver that's not going to do anything, like, I want Amir Smith-Marset making this team as a returner, as a guy that can catch punts, as a guy that can catch kicks, field punts, everything like that. And, also he returns kicks well, which is nice. All right, on to the next one. This is the last kind of serious question, and then there's like 3 silly ones to kind of end off. Ryan's Big Blue Podcast at Ryan Henderson 08. I recently went on Ryan's Big Blue Podcast, and I really enjoyed that interview. We talked about a lot of different things, and Ryan kind of let me go on. So if you want to hear that, go check out Ryan's Big Blue Podcast. I think he's had some other really good people on recently too. So check him out. What new free agent addition are you most looking forward to seeing? Obviously, I think it comes down to either Javon Holland or Paulson Adebo. And for me, it's clearly a Paulson Adebo. Now, that may be the unconventional take. Javon Holland is the more exciting player. But I think Adebo, that broken leg is fine. Like, and I'm not really worried about, like, the broken femur, broken leg, because the whole cliche of, it's much better to break a bone than it is to tear a muscle. Like, that's where I'm at with Paulson Adebo. Hey, Dr. Pennick here, and I believe it, and I sign off on that. I am so excited to have a cornerback that can make a play on a football. Talked about it with Deonte Banks, how he doesn't do it. That's Paulson Adebo's thing. Like, he's going to get targeted, and it may be frustrating at times, but also it could lead to interceptions. It could lead to a 2nd and 10 becoming a 3rd and 10. It could lead to a 3rd and 4, and a guy's being targeted on the sideline, and then it's a 4th down, and then the Giants get the ball back. Because a guy that can make a play on a football, like, it's just awesome. And Javon Holland is the more exciting player. Coming off a year and coming off a spot in Miami where fans were a little iffy on him, and there was some defensive coordinator turnover too. There was some clashes with coaching staff. So while Javon Holland is the more exciting player, I think Paulson Adebo is going to be better if he's fully healthy, if he's fully ready to go. And if the Giants put a lot on his plate, and if quarterbacks target him, then I think he is going to be the way more exciting, better player. He's going to be the better player, and that is the free agent addition that I'm most looking forward to seeing, without a doubt. Tauzino at Red Yeti 9, are there TG tailgate plans this year? As of now, yes. I would like to. I'm kind of need to have some more conversations with people at John Boy, with some event people at John Boy Media. I would like them to be sold like they were last year. Like 5 Hour Energy was on board. Corona was on board for a lot of games. So if they get sold, then it's worth it for the company to, put some resources in, because it's a lot of resources. It's a lot of time. It was Jeff, it was Bill last year, it was our guy Kyle. So it was three people, 3 employees, plus me being there, kind of setting everything up. And it's a long day, and you got to get there early, and like it's a big event to put on, almost every single home game. So if it's worth it for John Boy Media, I would like to do it. I would love for them to sell it. Knowing some of these brands, like, they love to spend money on football, and I would love to have them. Then if not, then we'll just be hanging around L16, and I will be there at L16, kind of just hanging out, and you could join me. But Fanatics Fest is going to be happening this weekend. That's like the next big event that they have at John Boy Media, and then I think after that, we're going to transition and turn to, all right, more tailgate conversations and what can we do there. So I certainly hope so. As of now, I'm going to say yes, but I will keep everybody posted on tailgate plans this year, because really, tailgates, anytime I get to see people, meet people, we talk Giants, we talk whatever, even hug people that you talk to online all the time, it's legit my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite thing to do about this job. It's the best thing about this job is to see people and actually talk to people that, I care about, and, maybe even care about me. So it's very cool. I hope we do it this year. Next question is, who at the what now? At Alex Bunner. What kind of stadium would you replace MetLife with? Open, domed, retractable, roofed? Would you move it out of East Rutherford? I mean, retractable roof is just the easiest answer. If the day is sunny, if the day is cool, open up the roof. And if it's a shitty day, then close the roof. I will tell you, I think I made mention of this on this podcast before. One of my buddies works for the state of New Jersey, and he told me there was a couple years ago that there was legislation. I don't know about legislation, but maybe there was a plan to give funding to MetLife Stadium and, the Giants and the Jets to build a roof. I don't know if it was going to be retractable or if it was going to be a dome, but there was a plan to do that. And it got thrown out, and I don't think it's come up since. So I would love a retractable roof. The weather, although hasn't been that bad, last year wasn't that bad, but 2 years ago, just the fucking rain was awful. The rain was just so awful 2 years ago. The cold can be bad, but it hasn't really even been that cold. It's the rain that sucks, and especially the cold rain that stinks. Now, would you move it out of East Rutherford? And I am is hard stance. Hard no. East Rutherford is the perfect location for me personally, and this is a selfish no. I love that, hey, my guys at the Candlewick Diner, Manny, right around the corner from East Rutherford. I love it. I kind of like that East Rutherford is located kind of in the middle of nowhere, in the Meadowlands Sports Complex. It's a sports complex. It's not located in the middle of a city. You can park. Is it a little bad to get in and out of sometimes? Yeah, it's a little bad to get in and out of sometimes, but once I'm on Route 3 and once I'm on the Parkway, I'm kind of smooth sailing and I'm kind of on my way home. If it moves to a city or a major commuting area, then it gets no, and that'll really piss me off. So no, I would not move it out of East Rutherford. I'm not a fan of moving it. If they move to New York, if the stadium moves to New York, that would be, I'm done as a regular season ticket holder. I'm not commuting to New York City, and that it would take something drastic for me to be all right, I'm not going to go to games anymore. That would be the drastic move. I love the fact that it's in a good spot in New Jersey. All right, before we keep going along, we got to talk about SeatGeek. Today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek, and the show is presented by SeatGeek. Thank you to SeatGeek. You know the MLB is in full swing. You also know that the NFL schedule is out. Come join me at a Giants game, and hey, I may be going to a Yankee game sometime soon, so did you know that SeatGeek is the MLB's official ticket marketplace? So when I go and I get my tickets on SeatGeek, they're going to be fully guaranteed and instantly fulfilled in my account after purchase. I don't have to wait for them to be emailed to me, which is freaking awesome. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app in the entire world. You already knew that. And when I go to Yankee Stadium, I'm going to look for the green dots because that's how I know that I'm getting a good deal. Because green means good and red means bad. Common sense. And you know we came through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. You know I'm using that code. I'm saving money. You can save money too. And back to the mailbag. And finally, last but not least, training camp is around the corner. Juicy White Man 97 on Instagram. He asked, the over-under on Justin consumed training camp hot dogs is 20.5. What are your thoughts heading into this pivotal time of year? Last year, I did 22 hot dogs consumed in 2 weeks. I think, so if that's the case, there were 11. There were 11 training camp sessions open to the public. So because I would do two every morning. 2 at 9 a.m. every morning. So if I did 22 last year, then there were 11. So 20.5, that would have to be 11. Or if I only go to 10, or if there are only 10 practices, then I have a third. Or they're doing a Giants-Jets joint practice. If they're doing one of them at MetLife, and that's open to the public, and one of them at Florham Park, then I have to get more there. So 20.5 is the line. I'm going to go with the over because tradition has to go on, and I will make it happen regardless. Even if I have to do 4 hot dogs in one morning. I get hungry. Hot dogs don't taste this. If you ask me to have a hot dog at night, by the way, I'm out. I'm done. I cannot do hot dogs at night. They only taste good in the morning now. That's how fucked up it is. All right. I am on vacation. I'm in the DR. I will see you next week. And like I said, I think I said it at the top. I'm going to try and get a beat reporter on next week. I hope you enjoyed the mailbag. I hope you have a great week. I hope you're getting excited for Giants football because the next time that they're on the field after this week, it'll be for freaking training camp. We'll see you next week. And take it away, Joey.
It starts today. Let's go, Giants! We bleed blue!